Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. I'm so glad you're here. So I'm going to stop abruptly because you're going to see some footage that I took while I was at the airport, and I'll explain it in a couple of seconds. I was flying to Toronto a couple of days ago. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's this great big thing that you just saw with all these books in it. And I've walked past that multiple times and never really looked at it. I thought it was just something you could just, like those lending libraries, you could just open up and you could just take something. But it actually belongs to the Halifax Library, and so I needed my library card to open the door in the first place. And there was about 3 shelves that were adult type books, and then you saw at the bottom there was about 3-ish shelves that were for younger readers. And I think there was some middle grade, but not a ton. I think it was more geared to early readers. So what you could do is you could take those books out, and you didn't scan them, you just took out how did that work? Yeah, I didn't scan anything, so I'm not really sure how they know which books I've taken out or how many. Not sure how that piece happens. But anyhow, it was on my card, so somehow the library is twigged to the fact that I have a book. And I thought it was brilliant. In the past, I've just never had the time, but this time I was there super early. I quite often have troubles in security, and so I usually like to go with an extra 20 minutes because it seems to take an extra 20 minutes for me. As everybody else walks past and I look longingly at the escalators, I'm stuck with just another justification for my packing choices. So anyhow, I knew I was headed into the land of dissatisfaction and unhappiness for me. I had to go and, well, I won't go into, just in the odd chance that somebody in the family is watching, visiting family. So I find that very stressful, and my hosts are extremely good and very kind, but it just has its stuff. And so I saw, like, right in front of me was this book, Janet Evanovitch's Going Rogue, Rise and Shine 29. So this is a series. It's just going to be that kind of a day. The first time I filmed this, I filmed it in slow motion. So I had to do it again. And then the second time, I was too close to the lens and when I stepped away. So the whole next 15 minutes of talking was completely unfocused. So, well, let me see, that was the bird clock. So next a phone should ring, or someone should deliver something at the door. So anyhow, this is a series that I've been reading for, well, let's just say she's at 29 and I've read them all. And so it's got to be at least 30 years that she's been working on this series. And I have read everything except for maybe 28. I might have missed one. And I love it. It is so good for when you know the world is going to be handing you some sour things on your plate. And if you've got this book sitting in your stash, then when it starts to get just a little too much, you can just go, it's time for Janet. And she does not disappoint. I have laughed my way through every single one. Some books funnier than others. Some, because it's 30 books, there is a repetition of some antics and some personality traits, but you get to know the characters and you're kind of looking forward to whatever it might be that they come up with. For instance, Lulu, who is, she's a woman of extremely generous proportions, loves spandex. And so somewhere along the line, her spandex is going to explode. And really, it's just situational as to, like, where is that going to happen? Who's going to watch it? And how much will it be on the media? So there are also inevitably some kind of car disasters that are just insane. And I really truly love the kind of hijinks that Stephanie Plum, the main character, gets up to. So usually Stephanie is looking for people who have not shown up for their court dates. She's a bounty hunter. And so if you've skipped your court date, you have become a felon. And so she gets bounty for finding you. And quite often she's picking up people who are just like numbnuts. You know, if you look in the stupidest crimes of the year things reporting, it's like some guy shoots himself in the foot with I don't know, I can't even imagine, like something from the car shop while trying to get rid of weeds. Like, it's just insane, the kind of things that these people are up on charges for. And the fact that they've skipped the charge has now, or the court date now makes them, even though they're completely inept, it just makes them a felon. So they end up going back to court, and it's just that much bigger and hairier. So some of them have a vested interest in running. And that means that Stephanie and Lulu have generally a madcap chase at least twice in a book. Then there's always a couple of people who have become, they're a little more sophisticated, or they're a little more adjacent to organized crime or repetitive crime or that sort of thing. And they're a little smarter, but they did get caught, and so they are harder for Stephanie and Lulu to catch. So there's a different kind of chase going on. I mean, sometimes they're running down a sidewalk, but thankfully they're not doing car chases. And then somewhere in the plot line, there's a bigger issue going on. And in this case, Connie, who is the business's secretary and sort of the one who she knows everything. The business can't function without her. She has been kidnapped because someone has used a coin as their surety for their bail. And it was the wrong coin. It's worth like $1 quadrillion, and it's become lost. And so the original owner of the coin doesn't believe that it's become lost and has kidnapped Connie and is using her as leverage for people to just try a little harder to find the coin. So that's the background thing that Stephanie is also doing shenanigans with. She's got her grandmother who likes to go to funerals and bakeries and bingo games, and they're just, each single person in here is a real character. And she has a boyfriend who's a good cop. He's an Italian hunka man, and they have a history. They've known each other since childhood. And then there's another cop who's called Ranger, and he's sort of he's kind of like Zorro. He's that dark, mysterious stranger who saves everything and doesn't have too much in the way of morals. So she's got the good cop and the bad cop. And then she herself, if you remember the dog Pluto, where there would be the angel, his conscience would be a good angel and going, don't do that, Pluto, don't do that. And then on his other shoulder, he'd have the little devil, and it would going, do it. And Pluto would be caught in the middle. So the reader is kind of Pluto, and Stephanie is one kind of angel, and Lulu is for sure the little short on morals. Logical, she's extremely logical, but that doesn't mean it's like the smartest choice. Anyhow, this is the ongoing shenanigans, and it's just absolutely perfect for doldrums or I think what I don't like about this is I find it's almost too light to take on a vacation, where when I'm on vacation, I don't want to take a ton of books with me, and I get through this book so fast. So for me, it's not a good vacation read, but if you're a slower reader or you've got lots going on, this is a good vacation book. I think that I suspect it's mostly a woman's book. I haven't yet met any men who've read this or enjoyed it. I think partly because Stephanie is such a harebrained female, but she's kind of our inner voice of rebellion, and so I think she resonates at a more female level. So anyways, I think it's super duper great, and if you want to if you haven't started it, the first one is called One for the Money, and I'm sure they are all available at libraries. My library does not have all 30. You have to like do what do you know that thing where you have to put it in the computer and say, I want such and such a book. Hold, put it on hold. And I'm sure it's available. I've seen it in used bookstores as well. So it's just that if you're trying to do them in order, which I recommend for the first 5 or 6, doing them in order. But after that, I don't think it particularly matters. You should be able to get hold of it fairly easily. So I'm going to show you a picture of the garden, and that's just a few seconds long. And then I am going to talk about something that's, it's just me worrying. It's just sort of a book chat. So I'll see you in a few seconds. I just wanted to include a clip on the garden this fall. Yesterday was just gorgeous. There was just a little bit of light coming, and it was glowing on the yellow leaves where the pink chair is, and in the background it was just kind of what you would expect a halo to look like. And one of the fun things about the garden is that the wind has blown all the leaves into the garden beds, so we don't have to do that raking. It just happened by itself. But the yard behind us, let me just see if I can zoom. This might be just my, woo, sorry. There we go. That's all yellow on the leaves on the ground, and it's just created this incredible background for this pink chair. So the backyard behind us isn't any screaming hell. It's mostly just an abandoned backyard, but the colors, oh my goodness, I wish it was sunny for you guys. You would just love it. But just use your imagination. So this next bit is just, it's not even an opinion piece. It's a worry ward sharing. And what I'm thinking about is that as we're starting to see some of the policies from the next administration down in the States, and I mean, I'm not talking about, I am not going to talk about what I think about them, or, you know, what I think I know about them. I have a speculative question, and is that a lot of the books, I guess I should start with the question, is what are the publishers of American books going to do in the face of some of these policy changes that might be coming our way? And because what we've seen in the last 20 or more years is we've seen an uptick in books that are published that have to do with women's experiences, immigration experiences, deportation, refugees, ecology, economy, environmental degradation, and not just in nonfiction. We've seen this in fiction, primarily in fiction, I would think. And it's really been more about the lived lives of humans than it has been about authors writing about, I don't know how to explain it. Like if you take some of the classics, for instance, you're getting more of certainly a white perspective, and you're not getting a very broad economic spectrum. It's pretty, what would you say? It's pretty homogenous, the older books. And as soon as I say that, I start to question myself. But I just feel that the range of topics that are currently available are almost all on the examination table as far as where certain potential policies are going to come down hard on. So is a reader, is a book publisher going to be comfortable writing about some of these issues? Who's going to sell their books? Where are the booksellers going to be? And if you're dealing with mega chains like Indigo or Amazon or something, I'm not sure whether they are going to be in the products that they sell. Are they going to be reflecting some of the changing ideology that's going on there? What about the independent booksellers? Are we going to see an uptick in independent book publishers that are going to be more focused on their particular, what's that called, theme, message, mission statement. And then what about the reader? What is the reader going to be comfortable picking up? So like, it's like running through my head is was it 1984 that was all about book banning? And then there's other things where like just all these sort of dystopian ideas are coming into my head, and I'm going, yeah, where is the book publishing world going to be in about 5 years, 10 years? Quite often, in my experience, the books that I read don't often read new releases, but I'll read books that have been published in sort of in the last 5 years. So quite often my sort of awareness of culture and people's issues and so on comes through reading my fiction. And I've noticed the New York Times bestsellers or the Globe and Mail bestsellers or what have you, they are very, of course, very reflective of what's on the reader's interest zone. And so it's broadened. There's just so many potential topics that a reader can say, oh, I really like dystopian novels, or I really like true crime novels, or what have you. But it's our characters. Are our characters going to be as broadly written as they currently are? Are we going to see sort of a retraction, and we end up with authors who are maybe afraid to talk about gay marriage in their books, or same-sex experiences in their books, or even just have liberal ideas about, you know, social outreach, social networks? I'm really curious to see where things are going to go in the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm kind of worried about it. I don't have any facts for any of this. This is just, and it's not a conspiracy theory either, it's just a speculation on how things are inevitably going to be reflected back to us as book readers. And I'm not even thinking about nonfiction. I mean, who knows where funding and where free speech is going to be allowed to go. You're like, I just don't know whether these things are going to come down into the publishing world or not. I don't think any of us know the answer to this. No reason for you to make a comment on it. I'm just, you know, in the world of shit, I've just created another problem. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but I'm kind of a little bit worried about it. And there are some topics that I've never bothered to read about. I never read true crime. I don't read horror. But again, it's like, will those books become lesser because there are more constraints put on us societally? Am I going to feel afraid to buy a book? Is my bookseller going to feel afraid to sell a book? It's like, I don't know. Hopefully not in Canada. That's just the typical thing for us to say, not in Canada. But then it does eventually creep in, this sort of mimicking of what happens down in the States. That's my cheerful thought. It's been on my mind for quite a while, actually. And I will quite often scream and rant about a book that has all the check marks, you know, like not only does the character have eczema, but they've also got one leg and are related to an octopus. It's like, I don't like those books that just check things off the list in order to get a hit on a word search. But there are certainly topics that I would not want to see muffled or go through the agony of euphemism or analogy. Oh, can you imagine analogy? I can't. So, bit of a downer. I'll have to be more bright and sparkly. I hope my backyard cheered you up. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next week for sure.